Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tom Perriello, President of the Center for American Progress Action Fund, Quentin James with the Sierra Student Coalition, and Maura Crowley with the Energy Action Coalition.
My name is Tom Perriello, and I'm the president of CAP Action. And among other things, we produce Think Progress, which hopefully you all read religiously every day. And I'm very excited to be here with these two leaders, just absolute trailblazers, and to talk about an issue that we all know is of the utmost importance, which is climate change and the environment. And we do so in a week that I think has shown the highs and lows of what we face when we try to organize and do political action. One of the lowest lows we've had in a long time this last weekend with the Trayvon Martin verdict and the responses to it, and understanding that even struggles that sometimes feel like we thought we'd move beyond certain points or we knew that we hadn't, but we're still reminded of it. And at the same time, you saw yesterday one of the longest progressive fights, which was to create a Consumer and Financial Protection Bureau. And you got to see none other than the star of your morning's program, Elizabeth Warren, presiding as the senator as we saw that go through. So I think as younger leaders from across the country, it's your job to be able to envision things that nobody in this town thinks is possible until you do it. And so we know that we do face defeats, and they can be dehumanizing, they can be disheartening. But we also know that there are these great victories that move us forward structurally. And these are two individuals that have been such a big part of that. Maura Crowley, as many of you know, is the executive director of the Energy Action Coalition. I'm not going to repeat bios because I want us to get to the action phase. And Quentin James is national director of the Sierra Student Coalition and a member of the NAACP board. And I just want to go ahead and dive right in here and hear from you all right now what you think is the most important work being done on climate change and the role that young people are playing in it. And Maura, maybe you can get us started off.
Yeah, I think the most important work that we're seeing across the country on climate that young people are leading is really starting to make a strong connection between climate change as an environmental issue, climate change as an economic justice issue, and climate change as a social justice issue. We know that the most impacted people by climate change and dirty energy are low-income people, they're people of color, and it's been our generation that has been at the forefront of pushing that narrative out, educating our peers, educating the environmental movement. And so I think that's overwhelmingly the most important thing that we're doing right now.
Yeah, I would add on to that. I think a lot of young people are working locally on the issue. It's become very localized. We see a national movement, obviously, when there are big issues like Keystone, like fracking, that are national policy. But a lot of folks are working in their communities and making this issue about their campus or about where they live, their backyards. So young people working on the front line and understanding the power they have, where they live, where they go to school, I think has been really important. But we need to move to a place where they're getting more support, more training, and so excited to see so many young people here, and maybe a little bit we can talk about how, you know, our work can help support young people working on their campus, in their communities, and localizing it, because we've seen that Congress is not doing anything, constructive, right? So I'm just really excited that folks aren't waiting for, not waiting. We expect national change, we fight for national change, but also localizing it.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know, there was all this work done around green jobs as well as around some of the environmental justice issues and other things in communities, and then an enormous amount of corporate money came in to demonize those various issues. And the question is, in my trips, I was just down in North Carolina the other day, North Carolina, that's all right. really been inspired by Moral Mondays and a lot of the activism that's going on down in North Carolina that I think speaks to so many of our souls. But it seems that people in DC have gotten more scared or turned off based on some of that negative messaging than in the communities. Do you all feel that people believe in the importance of this issue right now, or are we at a point that we need to be focused on how important the issue is, or how to solve it, or where the action steps are? Are we moving forward or backwards on those conversations locally?
Yeah, I'll go first on that one. I think we are moving forward, but we're waiting on innovation. And that innovation isn't going to come from DC, it's going to come from young people who are in this audience right now. The other piece of the green job conversation is there isn't good aggregate data on what is a green job, right? So if you deliver organic foods to a grocery store, but you're a truck driver, is that a green job? So that conversation gets convoluted a lot in this discussion, but I think what is amazing is that young people have taken it upon themselves to be innovative and create new ways of doing stuff that are improving their communities, saving the environment, and again, it gets to this point of localizing this issue and being innovative. So I think there was expectations that there would be more support coming from DC, from federal funds to stimulate green job growth in communities, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and I would say our generation is critical to moving the conversation forward. We know that that we can have an economy that works for people and works for the planet at the most basic level, and that if we transition our economy to new, clean, renewable energy and overall sustainable infrastructure, we will create jobs. That if we regulate pollution, if we clean up pollution, we will actually create jobs. And so regardless of how much money the corporations spend, that truth doesn't actually go away, and we need to hold on to that very, very strongly. I think what we're seeing on college campuses across the country is really an unprecedented wave of activism, where we have over 280 college campuses running divestment campaigns. Woo! Get that money out of fossil fuels. I always say fossil fools, because that's what I think about them. But yeah, and so I think where we're at right now is this kind of really, really interesting point where the climate movement can kind of advance to the next level and actually embrace the fact that our issue can help solve a lot of Americans' problems, and that we can actually rebuild the economy through advancing a strong climate change agenda. And if we can do that in a way that's very inclusive and brings communities from across this country together to really solve the issue, I think that we have a very good chance of winning.
And on that point, too, I think it's really important to let folks understand that people are employed in the clean energy industry right now. Anyone from Iowa in the room? Yes. So you all know that there are real folks working in Iowa, especially, right, on companies that produce windmills, right, that work on wind farms. And so it actually became a really interesting political moment during last year's election when that conversation was brought up, right? Like, do we support this industry in this state or not? And whoever's going to be for that was got the support of the voters there. So it's interesting how it's become a local state issue as well.
Well, it's interesting how when the issue goes from hypothetical to real, we tend to be winning. When people have actually seen clean energy, like in Iowa, and are seeing some of the biofuels emerge in places like Carolina and Virginia, it's different. And my guess is the polling would suggest this is true on extreme weather as well. How many people here, put up your hand if you're from a state that has experienced extreme weather in the last 2 or 3 years? I mean, the conversation is changing because people can walk outside their doors and make their own decisions in a way. Now, I know the two of you have both been fearlessly willing to defend the president when he's right, but also to push him when he and the White House may need a push. And he gave a big address a couple of weeks ago on climate. And I know a lot of activists around the country had worked hard for many, many years to hear an address like that. Are you feeling right now that we're at a point that the White House is committed and we just need to have their back and push them to make it real? Or is this a matter of even that not going far enough? Where do we need to put the pressure right now?
Yeah, well, I think that speech was a huge deal, and to me what it showed is that if we go out there and we organize and we push the president and we tell him that we will have his back when he takes the right actions, but we organize, we get our communities involved, we go out and we vote, that in fact this is a president that will respond to our generation. When he gave the speech on climate, he spoke to young people. And that was not a fluke. That was because young people have been at the forefront of demanding he take action on climate. We've organized rallies in every state in this country. We've done civil disobedience. Over 1,200 people got arrested in front of the White House in August and September of 2011. I mean, massive amounts of work.
Were you one of those people?
I was. Yeah. Yeah. And it was really powerful to see all of these people from all across the country coming together. So it was years and years of work that really, I think the president really understands climate change and he understands the fundamentals of the issue, but it was years of work that kind of built the political will to get us to this place. Now, I think we have a long way to go. I think this was the first step. And what we know is we've got President Barack Obama in the White House till 2016, and I think we're very lucky for that, especially given all of those horrific other options we had. And so what we need to do is keep pushing, right? Once you start to move your agenda forward, that's not when you back off. That's when you push harder, because it means that whatever you're doing, it's working. And so for us, we're really excited to kind of really hold up what's good about what the president is doing, but push him even more than we have to take the next step and make his plan even stronger.
Yeah, I would say the one piece I'm really concerned about is the influence of the fossil fuel industry on our politics. And so I think Maura is exactly correct that what we've seen from the president has been because of young people like yourselves who've pushed and demanded that he move on this issue. But I'm increasingly worried about the power of corporations when they can spend unlimited money to affect politics, especially around this issue. And so if there's one thing that I think we also have to do is become more and more and more politicized as young people. Like we turned out at the polls in 2008, again in 2012, but what we need to see is in 2014, a continued movement and pressure from you all on local elected officials and your congressional members as well. I think when that happens, we'll be able to continue to push the president, but also leaders locally and in Congress.
Well, and I want to focus on the positive too, in part because I've just been, so depressed since this last weekend that, we've actually already accomplished more than cap and trade would have done, which was a bill I proudly voted for when I was in Congress. But we've actually accomplished more already through efficiency standards, mercury rules, and other things. Secretary Kerry, with a lot of pushing from people in this room, just got a bilateral deal with China on some of the most intense super pollutants. So one of the things that's amazing to me is while we still feel like we've got a long way to go, it's remembering how effective and important this activism has been. And we're going to hand it off here in a second to an absolutely just an amazing woman in the Senate who's got a long vision and future of fighting for veterans and for equality and for jobs ahead of us, and I want to get to that. And so, but as we walk off stage left here, as people leave today, for climate alone, what is the most important thing for people to leave here ready to do over the next couple of months if we want to turn that climate agenda and that speech into action?
Great. Well, it's to come and join us in Pittsburgh in October at the next PowerShift conference. Yeah? Who's going to be there? Cool. So we're bringing 10,000 young people from all across the country, from all walks of life, who care about all different issues, together in Pittsburgh to really create our generation's climate agenda. And there's going to be amazing speakers. We're talking to really cool bands that I can't say, but we should be able to say it soon. Amazing trainings and lots of opportunities and space at that conference for young people to break out, have big conversations, and plot the agenda that really is our generation's climate agenda, and then go back to their communities and organize. And so it's PowerShift 2013. We would love to have all of you there. So check us out, powershift2013.org.
What she said.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all very much.